Today, the veteran political analyst Charlie Cook described Donald Trump as an anchor whose unpopularity is pulling down Republican candidates in a hotly contested midterm year. And it seems that a Trump endorsement isn't helping his friends overseas either. J.D. Vance campaigned in Hungary for Viktor Orban, and at that rally, he put Donald Trump on a speakerphone. Still, voters there overwhelmingly chose to give Orban, the country's longest-serving prime minister. Orban was prime minister for 20 of the last 28 years, between 1998 and now, the boot. Wasn't even close, by the way. On the night of Orban's defeat, a member of Israel's Liberal Democratic Party posted a photo of the victory celebrations in Budapest with the caption, "Israel, soon." Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is facing elections in his country. They're going to be 8 days before the midterm elections in America. And the close ties between Donald Trump and Benjamin Netanyahu are no secret. Netanyahu's been to the White House 6 times since Donald Trump returned to office. A stunning report from the New York Times this month detailed how Netanyahu had pitched Trump in the Situation Room on February 11th on launching a war with Iran. Quote, "Sounds good to me," Mr. Trump told the prime minister. To Mr. Netanyahu, this signaled a likely green light for a joint U.S.-Israeli operation, end quote. The Times reports that Trump's Trump advisors did not think Netanyahu's pitch for an Iran war sounded good. Quote, "The CIA director used one word to describe the Israeli prime minister's regime change scenarios: farcical." At that point, Mr. Rubio cut in. "In other words, it's bullshit," he said. Trump denies that Netanyahu pushed him into his war. Vox reports that Netanyahu's government has put cronies in charge of Israel's security services, demonized the Arab minority, persecuted left-wing activists, and pushed legislation that would put the judiciary under his control. He's currently on trial for corruption, with the most serious charges stemming from a scheme to trade regulatory favors for favorable news coverage from a major Israeli news outlet. President Donald Trump is actively pushing the Israeli president, Isaac Herzog, who holds a ceremonial position, essentially, to grant Netanyahu a pardon. Joining us now is Aaron David Miller. He's a senior fellow at the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace and a former Arab-Israeli negotiator. Okay, this is a tough one, Aaron, because we're not talking about a specific moment in what's going on in the Middle East. We're actually talking about the history of Netanyahu, who's been there for a very, very long time and has been on the same messages for a very, very long time and has on-again, off-again relationships not only with American presidents, but with Donald Trump himself. But at the moment, They share certain interests, that being in office protects them from something else.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's any doubt about that. Ollie, thanks for having me. Look, Netanyahu is the longest governing prime minister in the history of the state. In my judgment, he is the most skilled and ruthless politician on the current scene in Israel today. And he wants to remain prime minister largely because he is on trial 5 years in running before a Jerusalem district court, 3 judges, for bribery, fraud, and breach of trust. And there is precedent. Ehud Olmert, a former prime minister, was not indicted while prime minister like Netanyahu, but he served 17 months in jail as convicted on only one of the charges that Netanyahu is accused of. So elections are incredibly important for Benjamin Netanyahu. If he does not remain in power, he faces the prospects either of a possible conviction or alternatively a plea agreement that would end his political career. And for that, remaining in power, he needs the support, the active support of one Donald J. Trump, no doubt. And Trump has enormous leverage over Netanyahu as a consequence.
Do you think, though, that the anchor around Orban's neck that Donald Trump turned out to be is the same in Israel, or the circumstances too different? Is Donald Trump good or bad for Netanyahu in Israel?
I mean, he's more popular in Israel, Ali, than Benjamin Netanyahu, by far. And there are 2 basic differences between Hungary's political system and Israel's. Israel's coalition politics are much different, number one, and Hungary does not have the war/security dynamic that exists in Israel. The fact is, Netanyahu has gained very little as a consequence of having one of his life's missions fulfilled, which is engaging and getting the United States in a major war to unseat the Islamic Republic. But at the same time, the polls indicate that the Israelis are not happy with the ceasefire. either in Lebanon or in Iran. And that suggests to me that, in fact, Netanyahu has identified an issue, that is to say, Iran getting rid of the regime, that actually unites the Israeli public. It's just too hard to predict right now, given the volatility of Israeli politics, whether or not Netanyahu, when elections occur, government goes to term in October, but the elections may be advanced, whether or not Netanyahu will be able to form a government.
You and I can sit for several hours and sort of have a discussion about Israeli politics. It's a complicated system. It's not like many other countries. Aaron, good to see you as always. Thank you for joining us. Aaron David Miller.